favorite student, good old Anne. Number 1, how far? I said, well, D equals. Stuff that I noticed. Right away, Nick, I saw meters per second and minutes. I'm going to have to do some kind of a conversion. There's various ways you could handle this. I think the laziest is going to be to change that one to seconds. So I wrote down 12 meters per second. That's a speed. Meters per second is a speed. And then I wrote down the time is 2.5 minutes. How do I go from minutes to seconds? Yeah. I didn't bother doing a full convert. That one I know. I didn't bother doing the full fractional chain and cancel and all that. I know to go from minutes to seconds is times by 60. 2.5 times 60. 2 times 60 is 120 plus 150 seconds, yes? Okay. Now, D equals V times T, which is going to be 12 times 150. I should do that in my head. 1,250 plus 300, 1,550, 1,550? Or am I wrong? 1,850. I was wrong. Good gosh, Duick. 1,850 meters. If you got that right, you get 2 out of 2. If you forgot the units, a half mark off. Otherwise, am I wrong? 1,800? Okay, I'm way off. 1,800 meters. Sorry, I guess better use my calculator. If you got that right, 2 out of 2. If you forgot the units, a half mark off. Otherwise, if you got this wrong, I would give you 1 whole mark just for identifying the correct equation. Half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer, which really means, Brisa, if you even know the approach to take, like what equation to use, I'll give you 1 mark. You'll pass the question. And I will very much reward you, especially as we get into more and more difficult questions with multiple steps, for being able to say, look, Mr. Duick, I'm not sure where to go from here, but I know I'd start here. Hey, I'll give you credit for that. Absolutely. Don't leave stuff blank. Calculate the car's average speed in meters per second. So they want me to find a velocity or speed. How many marks is this one worth? I'll bet you there's a unit conversion along the way or something, an extra step. That 560 is a distance. That 3.2 is a time, but this is in kilometers and per hours. Well, I can go V equals D over T. That's from our formula sheet. I can go 560 divided by 3.2. That's from our formula sheet. If I do that, close that file, Mr. Duick. There we go. 560 divided by 3.2, I get 175. 1 point. I get 175, but that's kilometers per hour. If you stopped there, that would get you 2 marks. I need to convert this. How do I go from kilometers per hour to meters per second? Is it divided by 3.6? Hopefully by now you've clued in. You've put this one at the bottom of your formula sheet somewhere. And I get 48.6111. I'll go 48.6. I guess technically I would go 2 sig figs because of the 3.2 hours. So if you got 48.6, I'll take that. Or 49, I'll take that. 48.61 repeating, I'll take that. You would get 3 out of 3. Otherwise, I would give you 1 mark for that, half mark for that, half mark for the 175, half mark for dividing by 3.6, and a half mark for the answer. And there's your 3 marks. How many marks is number 3 worth? 3. Probably a curveball, trick, extra step, something weird. I notice these things. They want me to find a distance, so I wrote down D equals question mark. I noticed they gave me a speed, 340 meters per second. I noticed they gave me a time, 8.6 seconds. I said, geez, this seems pretty simple. I can go distance equals V times T. It's going to be 340 times 8.6. 340 times 8.6, 300, let's try that again, Mr. Duick. 300, my 4 isn't working. 340, wow, times 8.6, and I get 2,924. Why will that only give you 2 marks and not 3 marks? Zach. So? You could either divide the time by 2 to start out with and say, oh, it's going to be not 8.6, 4.3 seconds to go one way, or I'm lazy, I'll just do it afterwards. So now I'm going to go divide that by 2, and I'm going to get 1462. Technically, I would go 1,500 meters to 2 sig figs because there's 2 sig figs there, but I'll take 1462. If you got that, you get 3 out of 3. Otherwise, I would give you 1 mark for that, half mark for that, a half mark if you said 2,924, so that would get you 2 out of 3. Half mark for noticing that you had to divide by 2, and then a half mark for the answer. Ugh. 3 marks, maybe a trick. Well, a girl out for some exercise, she jogs and then she walks. How many trips is this really? I think 2. I'm going to treat this as 2 separate trips. In fact, I'm going to do the first trip there, the second trip here, and then I'll do all my totaling over on the right-hand side. So I'm going to go, I try and be a little bit organized. I'll go J for jogging, W for walking. I think that'll help me keep stuff straight. Yes? When we're jogging, it looks like our velocity is 5.1 meters per second. Our time is 5.5 minutes. I can't use that. Times by 60. You get 306 seconds? No, 5.5 minutes times 60. 330 seconds. So I'm going to get, while jogging, the distance is V times T. 5.1 times 330. My units match. It's meters per second. And it's second. That's going to give me seconds in my answer. 1683, and I'm not going to round off yet because I'm not done. While walking, V equals 2.5 meters per second. Time equals 12 minutes, which I'm going to multiply by 60, right? Folks, if you didn't do this, don't just copy this down. Try this tonight yourself. Divided by 12 times 60, Mr. Duick. 720 seconds. And so I'm going to get D equals V times T. It's going to be 2.5 times 720. 1,800 meters. What does the word total suggest I should do? Yep. Final thing I'm going to do is go 1683 plus 1,800, and here's my total distance. 3483, is that right? Probably I should go to 2 sig figs, so I'm going to say, which is 3,500 meters, because of that 2 sig figs right there. But I'm not fussy on the sig figs. If you got that, if you got 3,483, give you 3 marks. Okay. Otherwise, I would give you 1 mark for finding how far she jogged, 1 mark for finding how far she walked, and then 1 mark for saying total means add. Mr. Duick, you didn't do one specifically like that. I think there was one like that way back when in the homework, and if not, there you go. Find the total time she was traveling for in seconds. You know what? I think I can find time total. Give me 1 second. We'll pause the video recording. How can I find total time? Yeah. I think the easiest is just going to be go... I should have done that in my head. 1,050, yeah? Seconds. 2 marks. You know what? 1 mark for cluing in you had to add. 1 mark for the answer, I guess. I really should have made that worth 1 mark, but whatever. Average speed. Well, average speed is going to be distance over time. Ah, this is why they had me do part A and part B first. Because the distance is 3,483 divided by the time is 1,050, and that's meters, and that's seconds, so that is going to give me meters per second. I like that. 3,483 divided by 1,050. Do you get an average speed of 3.3 meters per second? I would give you 1 mark for that, half mark for the numbers, half mark for the answer. Now, look up. If you had this wrong, but you put your answer from right here, there, and you put your answer from right here down there, and you divided, I'll give you 2 out of 2 for this question, even though you got the wrong answer. Your method was totally right. You just started with the wrong data. Yeah.
I got 3.36.
Yep. 3.317. Yep. I went to 2 sig figs because I'm pretty sure this is a 2 sig fig question, but yeah. Number 5. I like number 5. I like number 5. I like number 5. Rabbit and wolf. 2 objects moving at different speeds. This is a job for relative speed. Okay. How long? Time equals question mark. Looks like the distance that we have to cover is 12 meters. And because there's 2 objects moving at different speeds, I'm going to pretend one's standing still. I'm going to use the relative speed of the other object. Wolf is going 32, rabbit's going 24. They're going in the same direction. What's the relative speed between the wolf and the rabbit? Am I going to add them or am I going to subtract them? Is the relative speed between the wolf and the rabbit 56 or 12? 8, that's what I meant to say. 56 or 8? 8. Okay? So I'm going to use that. 8 meters per second. T equals, I don't know if I have an equation on my green sheet that has the T by itself, but I know I have this one, and it even works for relative speed, and I can get the T by itself here. How would I move the V over? Yeah. So time is going to be D over V. It's going to be 12 divided by 8. I should be able to do that in my head. 12 over 8 divided by 4 divided by 4. You're going to get 3 over 2. 1.5? Is that right? So if this rabbit can has a burrow, has safety 1.4 seconds away, it survives. If safety is 1.6 seconds away, it's lunchtime. Now, if you got that 3 out of 3, otherwise, I would give you 1 whole mark if you had clued in that you were going to use 8, a relative velocity. I would give you 1 mark for that, half mark for that, and a half mark for the answers. And then I would turn the page. I like number 6. I like number 6. I like number 6. Number 6 is a nice question. Police are chasing a car. Oh, this question wants me to find what must be the velocity. I'm not going to find the velocity. I'm going to find the relative velocity. And then over here, I'll find the actual velocity. How did I know right away to go with relative velocity? Because, Alec, there's 2 objects moving at different speeds. That's gravity. We'll get to gravity later on this year, but not just yet. That was gravity. Well, the distance that the police have to travel to catch up to the bad guys is 180. That's really a relative distance. They're both moving, but that's okay. I'm just pretending that the bad guys are standing still. Mathematically, it works. The time that we have is 4.8 seconds. Hey, I can go like this. Relative speed is distance over time is 180 divided by 4.8. And I get 37.5 meters per second. Gio, what does this mean? It means the police have to be going 37.5 meters per second faster than the bad guys. How fast are the bad guys going in this question, Gio? Read carefully, my friend.
180 meters.
That's a distance. How fast are the bad guys going? Okay, and I'm going to be fussy. It's not kilometers. Kilometers per hour, right? Units help you figure out what's what. As soon as you said meters, I said, no, it can't be. Speeds are measured in something per something. Kilometers per hour, meters per second. So, ready? Let's do it again. How fast are the bad guys going?
160 kilometers per hour.
You said kilometers per hour, yes? My speed is in meters per second. I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this. I know it has something to do with the 3.6. Times or divide to go from meters per second to kilometers per hour. It's times? Okay. So the relative speed in kilometers per hour is 135. Ooh, they're going to be flying. That's not how fast the police have to go. That's how fast they have to go compared to the bad guys. That's how much faster they have to go. So, speed of the police is going to be 160 plus 135. 160 kilometers per hour, 135 kilometers per hour. My units match Geo, so I'm good to go. And I get 295 kilometers per hour. They're hauling. If you got that, that would get you 3 out of 3. Otherwise, I would probably give you, let's see. I think 1 mark if I saw that, a half mark if I saw the 37.5, a half mark if I saw the 135, a half mark if you showed that you knew you had to add them together, and then a half mark for the answer. But if you got the right answer, 3 out of 3. Alejandro. Thank you. If a bug moves from A to B, what's its displacement? There's 2 ways to get this. One is intuitively. I think it's 7 left. I think it's -7. But you can always find a displacement. A displacement is always final minus initial. The final position, -3, minus the initial, initial position, +3. I said -7. I think it's -6, yes? -6 meters. Or you could say 6 meters left. I would be fussy if you said -6 meters left, because to me, negative left is right. Right? Right. 1 mark. Scalars have magnitude only. Size. But we'll use the fancy word for size and sound nerdy. All vectors have both magnitude and direction. That's going to become much more important as the year progresses. Rylan, who's doing Physics 12, knows it becomes really important in Physics 12. You don't need to know whether it's a scalar or a vector, especially the next unit we're doing, it's all scalar math. Oh, much nicer. But certainly with vector math, you're doing tip to tail, lots of trig and all that stuff. Okay, 1 mark for each of those. Suppose I run 100 meters in 9.8 seconds. Calculate my average speed in meters per second. Okay. So V equals question mark, D is 100, T is 9.8. It is meters per second, so my units will match. It's going to be 100 divided by 9.8, which is going to be a little bit bigger than 10, because 100 divided by 10 is 10. So 100 divided by a little less than 10 will be a little more than 10. 10.2. And then they want kilometers per hour. Times by 3.6 or divide by 3.6? 36.7? 3, 4, 36.7. If you said 37, I'd take that because that 9.8 is to 2 sig figs. So really I should go to 2 sig figs. But so I'll go 36.7 kilometers per hour. So there's one answer. That's terrible, Mr. Duick. There's one answer. There's another answer. I would give you 1 mark if I saw that, 1 mark if I saw that, 1 mark if I saw that. Number 10. How far? Well, I have a speed of 6.3. I have a time of 45. 6.3 units, meters per second. Time, units, seconds. Gracie, my units match, so I can go straight to plugging and chugging. D equals VT. It's going to be 6.3 times 45. Can I do that in my head? Maybe. 6 times 45 is going to be 180. No, that's 4 times. It's going to be 270. I'm getting wonky. 283.5 meters. Technically, you should say 280 meters because it's to 2 sig figs, but I'll totally take that value. I would give you 1 mark for that, half mark for the numbers, and a half mark for the answer. How long? Hey. Time. Looks like we have a distance of 12.3 meters. And it looks like I have a speed of 2.3 meters per second. Time. I know distance equals V times T. Aha! Time equals D over V. It's going to be 12.3 over 2.3. You get 5.347. I'm going to go 5.3 seconds. 5.35 seconds I would take. If you said 5.34, I'd take a half off. Is that right? People nodding? Again, 1 mark. Sorry. 1 mark. Half mark. Half mark. Next page. What does the slope of a position versus time graph represent? I'll take velocity or speed. Depends on how we choose to interpret it. Either of those are fine, 1 mark. What does the slope of velocity versus time graph represent? Acceleration. The graph below is the position versus time graph for a short car trip. Find the average velocity for each interval. So the velocity over A and B, that's going to be the slope between A and B. I think that ends up being just 5 over 1, which is 5 meters per second. Yes? BC, negative 1 over, because it's 5 high, 4 high. Is it negative 1 over, is it negative 1 over 2 or negative 0.5? Is that right? Okay. CD, negative. The rise is 4, because it starts 4 high and ends up 0 high. The run is 2. You get negative 2 meters per second. 1 mark for each of those. 5 meters per second, negative 0.5 meters per second, negative 2 meters per second. If you didn't put units next to your answers, a half mark off. If you missed the negatives, half mark off. Consider the following: velocity versus time graph. What kind of a graph is this? Velocity versus time. It wants me to find the acceleration. No, it doesn't. It wants me to find the slope. It wants me to find the acceleration over each interval. Okay. I'm going to call this interval 1, interval 2, and interval 3. 3 marks, probably 1 mark for each one. So the acceleration over interval 1, it's going to be the slope, which is 9 over 5. Is that 1.8 meters per second squared? Yes? Then the acceleration over interval 2, that I can do in my head. 0 meters per second squared. The acceleration over interval 3 is going to be negative. Is it also 9 over 5?
Yeah.
So negative 1.8 meters per second squared. By the way, before 1 mark for each of those. Before you turn the page, when am I at rest? One second. At time 0 and time 15? Yeah? Yes?
For 0 to 5 seconds, I got 1.6 because 5 doesn't really line up.
I'll take that because I gave you a lousy graph. On the test, I'll make sure graphs are clear.
All right.
Again, you have no idea what a pain it is to do these in Word.
Yep.
I like number 17. I like number 17. Number 17 is a nice question. Nick, I didn't say graph, I said sketch, so I'm not going to worry about putting a title, scale, and all that. I just want the shape. Forward or backward? Forward. Constant speed, speeding up or slowing down. I think I'm looking for a horizontal line above the x-axis. I don't care how high you put it. Could be lower, could be higher, but that's the graph. Here, looking for a horizontal line on the x-axis. Ooh, going forward, speeding up. Alec, you could be less steep, you could be more steep because there's no numbers, but I'm looking for something, a straight line that is pointing with a positive slope. Ooh. Okay, downhill is backwards. So I'm below the x-axis. What's happening to the steepness? So what's happening to my velocity? Getting closer to 0. You know what? Yes? Yeah, I had to think about that for a while. Before you turn the page, is that the last one on this page?
Yeah.
Before you turn the page, I would have no problem giving you those red velocity graphs and asking you to sketch a distance graph. In other words, go the other direction. Okay? This page is out of 4. This whole massive quiz is out of, count 'em, 44. If you can give yourself a score out of 44.